I'd raised a number of issues. I'd raised the fact that we've made big commitments to the UN and the world system to reduce our emissions. And so we need more renewables in our system. Renewables cost. We're seeing the costs of independent power producers. At the same time, we're very conscious of the needs of ESCOM, and I think that you have an independent regulator that must evaluate the prices, because we can't be negligent in the prices that we oversee as government, and administered price like electricity is a big issue. At the same time, we need to be sympathetic. At no point did I oppose the price increase. I merely asked that all issues be considered as we deal with this matter.
And it's a tough balancing act, isn't it? At one point, ESCOM is saying we really do need the price hike that we've suggested, and you're saying that we need to cut the prices and deliver better services.
I think that it's a very, very tough call, which is why an independent regulator in an instance like this, the role that Mercer plays, they're hearing all manner of organizations and individuals. At the end of it, when they make a determination, it wouldn't be a ministerial determination. It would be Mercer, and they must be able to explain to the public how they've arrived at the decision that they've made, because there have been so many inputs into the process. I think that what South Africans must know is that the process and the decision would be free, fair and transparent.
But we don't really have much alternatives in terms of energy resources. The price of solar power, for instance, some still see it as punitive at this stage.
That is the point that I was raising yesterday. We do need solar, wind and other renewable resources in our energy mix, but presently those prices are still much higher than coal thermal. That's what's worrying us at the same time. We've got to strike a balance in the way in which the prices are at.
Just in terms of value for money, you mentioned in terms of civil servants and the delivery of services that there needs to be more consequences for those who engage in irregular practice or unlawful practice. What more do you see government doing? The president mentioned that there's a great deal of progress that has been made, that the asset forfeiture unit is involved. What more do you see happening?
Let me start with one of the proposals. And I think the time for ambiguity about whether or not civil servants should be able to run business that contracts with its employer government should be passed. We've got to strengthen legislation and ensure that no public servant will do business with government. That's what the law should say, and anybody who violates it should be charged and their services terminated in the public service. I think we need to be bold on that. The second set of issues relates to the work that people do. Now, we have a huge difficulty in something like the health service. Many of our health professionals, nurses and doctors, also operate in the private sector. They then come to the public sector. They're tired because they're working double shifts. We can't countenance a system where the private sector functions, but those who are dependent on public services then get suboptimal and very poor services. We've got to ensure that the professionals act as they should, and they must be available to service in the public service. Similarly, when teachers don't teach, there should be consequences.
But the view, though, Minister, by some is that the political principle
would be part of that. That's what we raised yesterday as well.
Minister, the view, though, by some is that the political principals themselves should ultimately take responsibility, that they should be held to account for continuing irregular practices or fraudulent practices such as these.
I have no doubt in my mind that leadership must come from political principles. But I'm saying that across the board, we've got to ensure that the rules are tightened up, and that the rules are abundantly clear, and that South Africans know that corruption has no place, that mediocrity has no place, that will always serve in the best interests of our people.